Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. It is 6:00 p.m., and I now call to order the Crete Public Schools Board of Education meeting. This is the January 2023 regular meeting. Notice of this meeting has been advertised in the Crete newspaper, which is the district's designated method of giving notice of these meetings. We want those in attendance to know that copies of the Open Meetings Act are available at the entrance to the boardroom. If anyone in attendance is interested in addressing our board, you are welcome to do so. We simply request that you complete the appropriate form and turn it in to us now so that you may be recognized during the public forum part of our meeting. These forms are also located by the entry doors of this room. Ms. Banyos, will you please call the roll?
Greg Holman?
Yes.
Julie Kozchek? Yes. Justin Kuntz?
Yes.
Bill Lorenz?
Yes.
Greg Mock? Scott Peeney?
Yes.
We have a quorum present, so we will move forward with item 3, which is the reading of the mission statement by Dr. McDowell.
The mission of Crete Public Schools, a diverse community of engaged individuals committed to the success of all, is to ensure learners have the character, knowledge, and skills to be respectful and productive members of a global society. Crete Public Schools will cultivate a culture where all are challenged, empowered, and supported to reach their maximum potential.
Thank you, Dr. McDowell. This brings us to item 4, which is the public forum part of our meeting. During the public forum, each individual addressing the board will be allowed 5 minutes. The Board of Education has the prerogative to limit speaking to 3 minutes when there are 3 or more patrons to allow all speakers an opportunity to address the board in a timely manner. We will not engage in dialogue with patrons presenting to the board. The board president and superintendent will identify staff to follow up on the information requested from patrons. The board president may share a statement on behalf of the board when addressing a major issue in the district. I do have a note from Barb Ralston, who would like to address the board on the time management system. Ms. Ralston.
Good evening. I am a CC employee at the elementary school. At the December 19th meeting of the Board of Education, Julie Kozachek read the meetings from the Personnel Committee meeting. One item brought to their attention was the amount of time it took to correct missing information on time card punches by hourly staff. A possible solution was to make pay deductions to reimburse for staff time spent. There have been times when I have made unsuccessful attempts to clock out. I worked through the prompt several times and it finally appears to succeed. The next day when I clock in, I am notified that I missed clocking out the previous day. I know of other individuals who have had similar experiences clocking in or clocking out. Before deductions of pay for missing information for signing in or out for hourly employees is implemented, I would like to suggest that the reliability of the time management system be improved. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts on that with us. Is there anyone else here who would like to address the board during the public forum? If none, we will move on to the approval of the agenda as posted, which is item 5. This is the agenda as published. Would anyone like to remove any items or add any items to the agenda? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
A motion by Julie, a second by Greg Holman. Dr. McDowell, anything regarding the agenda? Roll call.
Holman?
Yes.
Kozachek? Yes. Kuntz?
Yes.
Lorenz?
Yes.
Mock? Peeney?
Yes.
The agenda is approved as published. This brings us to item number 6, reorganization of the board. At this time, I move the board to adjourn sine die, and the Crete Public Schools Board of Education turns the chairmanship to the superintendent. The superintendent's chairmanship is limited to roll call, administering the oath of office, and electing a new board president. I would entertain a motion to adjourn sine die for the 2022 Crete Public Schools Board of Education, and that the board turn the chairmanship over to the superintendent at this time. A motion by Julie. Is there a second? Second by Greg Holman. Roll call.
Holman?
Yes.
Kozachek? Yes. Kuntz?
Yes.
Lorenz?
Yes.
Mock? Peeney?
Yes.
Dr. McDowell.
Yes, thank you. And before we do take the oath of office for our 3 re-elected board members, just so you know, attached to the agenda is the conflict of interest procedures for all of you to review, and then also you have already all signed the Code of Ethics, which is in policy So with that, we'll move on to the oath of office for our 3 re-elected board members. So if I could get Bill, Greg, and Greg to stand. I do have a copy of this for you at your table. It is lengthy, so I will do my best to break it up so that it's at least memorable for us here. So if you'd raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and then state your name, please. As a board member, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska. You got to repeat after me. Poor instructions. So let's try again, because I'm gonna chop that sentence up again. Yeah.
Smaller.
So I'm gonna, again, it's long. So we've got your name stated, it's on record. You're gonna repeat after me. As a board member, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. That I take this obligation freely and without mental reservation or for the purpose of evasion. And that I will faithfully and impartially perform the duties of such office of the Board of Education of the School District of the City of Crete. In the County of Saline. In the State of Nebraska. According to law. And to the best of my ability. And I do further swear that I do not advocate. Nor am I a member of. Any political party or organization. That advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state by force or violence, and that during such time as I am in this position, I will not advocate nor become a member of any political party or organization that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state by force or violence. So help me God. Congratulations. Thank you. Next up is the election of the President of the Board of Education for 2023. I will entertain a motion for nominations for President of the Board of Education, conduct a written ballot if necessary, and announce the results. The newly elected President will then chair the remainder of the meeting.
I'd like to make the motion to have Justin Kuntz serve as the President of the Crete Public School Board of Education.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second for Mr. Kuntz. Hearing no other nominations then, I would recommend a motion to cast a unanimous ballot for Mr. Justin Kuntz, having no other nominations.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Julie, second by Mr. Holman. Roll call.
Holman,
Yes.
Kozaczek.
Yes.
Kuntz,
I'll abstain.
Lorenz.
Yes.
Mock. Peeney.
Yes.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
Thank you, Board. I appreciate it. Appreciate your support. This will bring us to item 9, at which time we will convene and call to order the 2023 Crete Public Schools Board of Education. At this time, I will entertain a motion for nominations for Vice President of the Board of Education, conduct a ballot if necessary, and announce the results of the election. I would entertain a motion for the cast of a unanimous ballot and any nominations that the board may have for vice president at this time.
I move to have Bill Lorenz be the vice president.
I have a motion for Bill Lorenz to be vice president of the Board of Education for 2023. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Julie. Any other nominations for board vice president? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to cast a unanimous ballot for Bill Lorenz as board vice president, having no other nominations.
So moved.
A motion by Julie. Do I have a second? Second by Greg Holman. Roll call.
Holman,
Yes.
Kozaczek,
Yes.
Kuntz,
Yes.
Lorenz, Mock, Peeney.
Yes.
Congratulations, Bill. Motion carries. So we'll move us to item 11, which is the election of a secretary of the Board of Education for 2023. I would entertain any nominations for secretary of the Board of Education. Conduct a ballot if necessary and announce the election results. Do we have any nominations for secretary of the Board of Education for 2023?
Nominate Julie Kozaczek.
I have a nomination by Scott for Julie. Do I have a second?
Sorry, Dr. Kozaczek.
Second.
A second by Greg Holman. Are there any other nominations for secretary of the Board of Education for 2023? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to cast a unanimous ballot for Dr. Julie Kozaczek as secretary of the board, having no other nominations. A motion by Scott. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Greg Holman. Roll call.
Holman,
Yes.
Kozaczek,
Abstain?
Kuntz,
Yes.
Lorenz,
Yes.
Mock, Peeney.
Yes.
Motion carries. Congratulations. Better clap. All right, this brings us to item number 12, which is committee structure for 2023. At this time, I'll just announce that we may make a couple of changes to our committee structure for 2023. We haven't finalized those yet, but I'll be talking with each of you in the upcoming week or two about our committee structure, if we're going to keep them the same standing committees, and then also the assignments. So we'll address that in a couple weeks here. Which brings us to item 13, which is the consent agenda. It's the first item on the agenda tonight. Consent agenda to be approved as follows: minutes from the previous month's meeting, claims as submitted, staff adjustments as submitted, treasurer's report as submitted, and the 2023 Board of Education designations. This is the consent agenda as published. Would anyone like to remove any items or add any items to the consent agenda? Does anyone have a potential conflict of interest?
I do. Out of caution, I'll abstain from voting to approve check 143874 to avoid an actual or perceived conflict of interest. I vote to approve the balance of the consent agenda.
I'll second yours.
All right, I have a motion by Scott and a second by Julie, and actually tonight, included in the motion to approve the consent agenda, we also need to approve that the official depositories of school funds for Crete Public Schools would be designated to be Pinnacle Bank and Citibank, and that the designation of any other institution as the depository of school funds is hereby withdrawn. So I would need a motion to approve the consent agenda with that recognition as those two banks as being the school depositories.
So moved.
A motion by Julie. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Greg Holman. Dr. McDowell, anything of note with regard to the consent agenda?
There was just a couple questions that came up in finance facilities as reviewed claims, and then from a couple additional board members as well. So one that's out of the ordinary on there was from Curriculum Associates, which is the provider of iReady, and iReady is the math intervention that's used at the middle school. It's a yearly subscription. It was about $13,000 if I remember correctly, but that was one that's, you see it once a year. The other one that was new this time was the ESEA bill. So there was an ESEA bill for, I want to say, about $8,500. That is, we have paid for the travel and hotel accommodations for the intermediate staff, for Shannon and Lisa and 2 teachers that they're taking to receive their national award. However, with that, just so you know, we're in at about $8,500 right now. ESEA and Title I kick back $7,500 of that. So it's, they want them to be there, and so they provide some funding for them to make it there. There was one other one.
The yard boss.
Yard boss, yes, so thank you for that. There was a couple questions around yard boss, and we haven't had a lot of snow and all of that, but anytime there is ice, they do come out and they salt, they sand, they do what they have to do at all of our facilities except this facility and the elementary. We take care of those at the district level. But as you look through those claims, also know that we do go through those with a fine-tooth comb, and thanks to Mrs. Beck, she did catch some billing errors from Yard Boss. We talked about that at Finance and Facilities, and so I want to say it's about a $1,200 credit that will come back next time. And so as you look through those two, yeah, we're not pushing a lot of snow, but again, anytime there's the chance of icing and all that, they are out there with salt and sand. And that's all I had for claims this evening.
Any other questions, discussion regarding the consent agenda, board? Hearing none, roll call.
Holman?
Yes.
Kozaczek?
Yes.
Kuntz?
Yes.
Lorenz?
Yes.
Mock? Peening?
Consent agenda is approved. Brings us to item 14, which is the committee reports, and item 14A is finance, facilities, and transportation. I think Greg Holman has those.
Finance, Facilities, and Transportation Committee met on Thursday, December 15th at 5:30. It was attended by Greg Holman, Greg Mock, Dr. McDowell, Ms. Beck, and Ms. Kirshner. The committee received an update on what we have paid for the snow and ice services. So far, it was also shared that there was an overcharge and a due credit on our bills. The committee discussed the depository accounts that we currently have and the changes that Dr. McDowell and Ms. Kirshner would like to make. The depository accounts are designated each year during the January meeting. Dr. McDowell presented information to the committee regarding the safety training that occurred on January 4th. This was to practice what a reunification would look like if there was a need to evacuate a building. The committee discussed current projects in the district. It was also discussed that should land become available for purchase, we should consider buying it now in case we need it in the future. The claims were reviewed by the committee. The next meeting will be Thursday, February 9th at 5:30 p.m.
Thank you, Greg. Next is American Civics, Teaching and Learning, and I think Scott has those tonight.
The Teaching and Learning Committee meeting was held at 4 p.m. on January 4th in the Cardinal Welcome Center. Members present, Dr. McDowell, Mr. Stecker, Dr. Franz, Mr. Kuntz, Dr. Kozaczek, and myself. Mr. Stecker shared an example of a letter to provide an explanation of the MAP assessment and the individual student scores to parents. He asked for feedback on the letter. At the next district leadership team meeting, Mr. Stecker will share this letter with the team in order to gain more feedback and develop similar parent letters for the NSCAS, ELPA, and ACT assessments. The committee discussed the recent professional development on the standard response protocol and the standard reunification method drill completed on January 4th. Through the training, the preparedness of CPS to respond to an emergency situation increased significantly. Multiple community agencies were represented in the training, and ability for all entities to collaborate has been enhanced. Dr. McDowell spoke with the committee regarding the state of the present strategic plan set to expire this year. He spoke on the merits and cautions of developing another strategic plan. He asked the committee members to contribute their own perspective with the previous strategic planning process. Dr. McDowell indicated his desire to create a request for proposals for agencies to apply to facilitate a strategic planning process. The next meeting will be on February 8th, 4 p.m. in the Cardinal Welcome Center.
Thank you, Scott. Next up is personnel, and I think Julie has those.
Personnel Committee met on Monday, January 9th at 12 o'clock p.m. In attendance were Greg Mock, Julie Kozacek, Greg Holman, Dr. McDowell, and Mrs. Beck. The committee was informed of the recent staff nominations that were submitted to recognize staff doing great things. From the 41 submitted nominations, 3 were randomly selected. High school assistant principal Marcy Harfeld, middle school head custodian Chris Marishka, thank you, and preschool teacher Jill Muff were all surprised on Friday with a visit from Dr. McDowell, who shared their nomination. They each selected a prize from the Loot Scoop. Dr. McDowell shared the results of the end of the Q2 continuous improvement loop sent to staff. Although the data shows that the 2 challenge areas remain the same, recognition and value and professional growth, the data has increased in both of these areas, which means staff are rating these higher than the last time the survey was given. The committee asked how the results could be broken down even further by building. Dr. McDowell shared that each building will receive their own building's results. The overall results will be sent to staff and also posted on the CPS staff intranet. Mrs. Beck shared that there will be a review of companies who provide employee assistance programs. Currently, Continuum is the contracted company that provides services. The committee asked what else Continuum offers. Other things provided include monthly newsletters, access to materials and articles online, a 2 one-hour PD sessions. The committee asked how staff are made aware of this service. Staff are made aware each month when the articles are shared via email as they are onboarded during the hiring process, and the link is on the staff intranet. The committee discussed extra standard positions that have been proposed to the board. If approved, these added extra standard positions will be open internally to CPS staff to apply for. The specific opportunity was created in part based on staff feedback on the continuous improvement loop survey in the professional growth area. Staffing updates, current posted positions, and December substitute data was shared with the committee. The total number of sub-jobs decreased from November to December, yet compared to last December, there were more sub-jobs this school year. Sick leave was the highest type of leave submitted, and PTO was used the most on Fridays. The next Personnel Committee meeting will be held on Monday, February 6th at 12 o'clock.
Thank you, Julie. That concludes the minutes and brings us to item 15, which is information discussion items, and item 15A is campus highlights. Tonight we have the high school.
Well, I'll go ahead and get us started here. Thank you for having us present today. My name is Corey Bowling, and I'm the high school principal. And Marcy Harrefeld, assistant principal, along with these 3 young leaders at the high school, are going to share some results. And I'll let them introduce themselves here in just a bit, okay? Our students have recently taken some Excel surveys, and they're surrounded by 6 different specific areas. And as you can see from this chart right here, there were 1,400 surveys that students took, and each teacher selected 2 of their prep periods to have those students take those surveys. And so they selected which classes they wanted to have take the surveys, and then the students took the surveys. Students that were in athletics also took surveys, and you see there were 498 completed there. The survey results were then returned to us, and we're going to get into that information because there's some exciting stuff to share there, and we'll get there in just a second. Here are the themes that the students are surveyed on. As you can see, connection, just how are we connecting with them as individuals, as people? How are we keeping them safe? So, fear of consequences and things like that. How are we structuring their day? Are we providing them a proper structure that they know exactly what's going to happen when they enter the classroom and throughout the class? How are we communicating with them? Are we challenging them? And then ultimately some skill development. Are we providing skill development? So when you think about high school students taking surveys, you can think a lot of negative things, but I was extremely impressed for my first time seeing the results, how authentic a lot of the comments were from our kids. and how serious they actually take this survey. And you're going to see some really cool stuff. So before we get into the data that Mrs. Herrefeld is going to share, I think there was a lot of groundwork laid last year by Mrs. Herrefeld and the staff that you're going to see the positive results from all that hard work that they put in last year, and then I think it carried over to the beginning of this year. So I'm excited for you to see the positive results from these surveys, and then allow the kids to share a little bit about what they're doing in their leadership side of this Excel process.
All right, so this is the results from the fall 2021 to fall 2022 survey. So in every one of the 6 categories that the students were surveyed on, we did show an increase in each area. So that was very exciting. When we were on the Zoom call with Excel and they shared this with us, you always get a little nervous about, oh gosh, what's it going to be this year? We surveyed twice the amount of students this year that we did last year due to the fact that we selected 2 classes from every teacher instead of 1. So your data could have gone either way. But I was very excited whenever she showed this slide to see that we grew in every single area. And the most proud is the challenge area, because that just shows how our teachers are really putting our students' needs and first and challenging them to be the best that they can be. So these are the questions that were asked for the connection survey. And the questions that are in orange are the ones that we're going to talk about tonight, just to get through this quickly. So for connection, they ask about my life outside of the classroom. So fall of 2020, 27% of students answered that their teachers do that for them. Fall of 2021, we jumped to 41%. And this year we jumped to 51%. So over half of our students feel that teachers are now talking to them about life outside of the classroom. So that's all about building those connections and making students feel safe at school, which leads into the psych safety. It's easy to talk about difficult issues or problems with my teachers. Again, 44% in fall of 2020, 53% in fall of 2021, and 62% this fall. So again, another huge gain by our staff, letting students know that it's a safe place for them to be. The structure of the classrooms. So the question we looked at this time, they have talked to me individually about my grades in this class. What we found when we first gave this survey is that only 37% of students felt like they got individual notoriety in the classroom about how they were doing in the class. Certainly they could always look at Infinite Campus and see what their grades were, but the teachers weren't necessarily talking to them about their grades in the class. So then we jumped a little bit. Teachers starting working on this the next year, we went up to 38%. This year we jumped to 51%. So now over half of our students again are feeling like teachers are talking to me individually about my grade in this classroom, how I can improve it, what do you need to see from me in order to really get the most bang for my buck in this class. Communication. This one is always a big one for me. I believe in clear and constant communication with our students. So instructions given by this teacher are easy to understand. 69% in the fall, 80% in fall of 21, and 82% in fall of 2022. So this one just shows the gains that our teachers are making. As you know, as you get higher with your percentages, it's harder to change those percentages. So I was proud that we still continue to grow in this category. Challenge, this is again the one that I'm very proud of. I know I'm better at this subject because of them, the teacher. 55% fall of 2020, 64% of fall of 2021, and 75% in the fall of 2022. Our teachers are pushing our kids appreciate the push, and they want to continue to do better inside and outside the classroom. And skill development, they have told me specifically what I need to work on to be successful in this class. So this goes a little bit with that they talk to me individually about my grades, but this is specifically what do I need to do in this class to be more successful. Not necessarily to get a better grade or to get an A, but to be successful. What do I need to do? 51% in the fall of 2020, 63% in the fall of 2021, and 68% in the fall of 2022. So challenge, skill development, and communication, all of those things go hand in hand. When we started these surveys, students, the first time they took them, they would come to me, why are we doing this? What is the point of this, Ms. Herrefeld? Why? Why are we doing this? And so I keep telling the students when they ask that is because we need to get better, just like we ask you to get better and you to learn, then the same thing falls in place for us. So Mr. Bowling and I are excited about getting our results as well. The teachers do an administration survey on us. And so we should be getting those results soon as well, and hopefully they fall into the same area that the staff's surveys fall into. So now what I want to do is I want to introduce these young people. They are part of our leadership group that has been meeting with Bill Ekstrom and the Excel group. So we found that, okay, this is working with our staff. How can we roll this out to start leadership roles within our students to keep this rolling throughout the entire high school? We don't just want our staff getting better, we want our students to get better too. And we want them to really take a leadership role. So these three students are part of our leadership team. We have a whole group of students, around 85 or so, that are a part of this group, and we've selected 8 that are kind of the leaders. Some of them are at basketball tonight, reserve basketball game, and practices that I know Jordan has to get back to, so I'm gonna let them go ahead and take over. So if you guys will just introduce yourselves and tell them a little bit about what are on the next few slides.
My name is Julian Mendez, and I'm a sophomore. We are a group of diverse students who represent Crete High School, and our core values are discipline, inclusiveness, passion, integrity, and collaboration.
You want to tell them how you guys came up with the name and the slogan at the last meeting?
We just sat down, and someone was making that reference to Russell Wilson saying, "Marco's country, let's fly," but it was Cardinal Nation instead. But then we thought that was not good, so we finally decided on take flight instead.
Good, perfect, thank you.
Oh, my name is Jeffrey Kunsel. I'm a junior at Crete High, and our motto is Crete Cardinal Leadership Next will make a difference in the Crete community by creating new growth opportunities, by inspiring one another to be the best version of themselves during and after being a student at Crete High School. And so we came up with this at our last meeting, and it was actually Jordan's idea. But we thought this was a good motto to, not just for our Crete High School, but for all of our schools in general, and to help out our community so they can show how our growth goes.
So the whole group of 80 came up, they met in groups. We had 3 groups talking about mission, vision, names, slogan, all of that. And then they broke down into these leadership groups. And so they had this really long mission statement that was 8, 9 sentences long. And so the task then was with this leadership group to break that down into the one sentence that you see in front of you. So the students did all of this work on their own. I was in the room. I just sat and listened. The students did all of this work. So this is student-created leadership by these kiddos. So.
My name is Jordan Party. I'm a sophomore at Crete High, and our vision is to encourage communication among all stakeholders and promote intellectual and social growth by providing a safe, supportive setting so all students can think and speak for themselves.
Perfect. And so again, same thing with the vision. This was a whole lot of sentences, and it had a whole bunch of extra words in it. So they worked with Bill to really narrow the focus and make sure that we had a real clear lens on what we wanted this leadership group to accomplish. So I'm excited about the potential and the possibilities that this group will take forward in leading Crete to its all the changes that are happening. So thank you, kids, for all the great work you've done. You guys, it was so fun. We bought them pizza, and they came up with all this in an hour and a half. So we also have a logo that one of our students designed. I didn't have a chance to get it on here yet, but they're designing the logo and doing all the branding themselves as well. So this has been total student-led and student-run. I just am there to facilitate. So it's been a phenomenal experience with all of them. So, and if you guys, I'll open it up if you have any questions for either one of us or the students.
So as students, do you feel like this is a valuable thing? Are you enjoying being a part of this? Do you feel like it's, I know you're a junior, better than before we had some of this, and better than before you were able to do a survey and kind of voice your opinion?
Yeah, I feel like we have, like you said, a lot more better opportunities with the surveys, so we can it's not just always about like having just what they tell us, but like not like that. Like they like give us a chance to share our opinion. And yeah.
So what's the plan moving forward? Do you meet every so often? Like how often do you, or do you have it? Once a month?
So we'll take all of this that the leadership group has created. They created this right before Christmas break, and we will share that out with the larger leadership group. And then once we do that, then we'll share it. We'll start sharing it out with like all the different groups within the school, so all the students are privy to this information that the students have created.
One of the things I noticed when you were going through the questions and the scores was the confidence I have increased confidence or something like that, and it went from 54% to 71%, and that was almost a direct mirror of them feeling like they're doing better and being more successful. So I just think it shows that confidence and success are hand in hand.
Absolutely. So the last thing I just said, Crete High is going places, so look out because we're on the roll. So we're excited.
Well, I appreciate all your hard work and thank you for coming.
Thank you.
That brings us to item 15B, which is the superintendent's report. Dr. McDowell.
Yes, thank you. Just a couple items on my report this evening. First of all, you've heard a little bit about it through committee reports, and probably at the end of the third quarter, maybe the end of the fourth, I'll run it through a couple committees just to give you an overview of the CPS improvement loop. If you remember, we were able to partner with the AB to really focus in on staff morale and how do you really tackle it. So we did that first improvement loop survey at the end of last school year in May, and so we've taken it 3 times now. And the overall score continues to go up. As you heard from Dr. Kozacek, our 2 areas that we're working the hardest on, recognition and value being the one that needs the most work, is we're still at it, but it is continuing to improve as well. We just see steady growth there. A couple of things that have come out directly because of that survey from staff is that, in the staffing plan tonight, you'll hear again about some extra standard positions. That came from the idea of hearing from staff that for professional growth, sometimes we feel like there's no in between being a teacher and being a principal, and so how do we put different roles in place there so that teachers can get better at what they do, that if they're interested in leadership, that they have an opportunity to practice that and become leaders outside of their classroom for the district. And so, again, pending approval of that tonight, that will happen. Our staff appreciation nights, we've had one already, which was sponsored by the foundation. The next one is February 13th. We made changes to that because we heard from staff that said, hey, we have teachers who teach and staff that work from all over. Is there any way we can build it into a day when we don't have kids? And so that would be February 13th. And so that will be just part of the day. So we're looking forward to that. And then the last thing that it has continued to push is the work with Doan. I've been fortunate enough to be able to sit down with Dr. Hughes and Dr. Fry, the president and the dean of the education department, and trying to figure out how can we informally provide opportunities for growth for our staff. So whether it's a discount on coursework, if it's credits for, completing a certain number of things for us, we're still in those talks, but it's great to be at the table and to have a partner like Doan that is willing to listen to that. So again, we'll just keep you updated there, but I am excited about it. It continues to get better, and that's the idea. It's the CPS improvement loop. While not perfect, I do believe we are making strides. You also heard about the I Love You Guys it is the I Love You Guys training that we went through. It was the first time that anybody could remember for sure in 4 years where we had our threat assessment teams, our crisis response teams, and then Crete PD and Saline Medical and the county sheriff and all of these entities that work together or will work together in the event of a crisis situation. And so for us to be able to sit down, all get on the same page in terms of lingo, words, procedures that we use was really good. And then the last piece of training for all of us was the reunification. So in the event that a building has to evacuate to our evacuation site, how do we effectively and confidently pair kids back up with their parents and guardians in a situation like that. And so we have now been through that. Probably it was all day. We started at 8, we got done at 4:30. Excuse me, probably, you learn so much that we're going to sit down again as a team on January 23rd, because we certainly identified some holes and some things or some parts in our processes that we need to get better at, so we'll continue to work through those. But it was fantastic training, quite honestly, from the safety and security side, probably the best that I've been through. Just a quick note, this Friday night is the Hall of Fame induction, so if you have the opportunity to come by Crete High, they will be inducting, they announced those 5, I believe it hit the foundation Facebook page either on Friday or on maybe today, but the 5 people who will be inducted into the Hall of Fame have been announced, so if you can come, they'll do the announcement I believe at halftime of the boys basketball game. So should be a great night for that. And then there is a reception at the country club following that. The last thing that I have on a report tonight is, as we swear new board members in, just thank you for your service. It's another 4-year term, and why sometimes 4 years probably seems daunting. Certainly appreciate your service and your efforts, and I appreciate how you push me and make me get better at what I do, so thank you. And with that, I'll gladly answer any questions for you this evening.
I'm just curious that the improvement loop survey,
Yep.
is the amount of people taking it, staying consistent, dropping?
Yeah, so great question. So the first time we took it, we had a phenomenal response, and it did drop to, I'm going to say, and I can look it up to get you exact numbers, I'm going to say there's about 150 staff members that took it, and we were right there again. So it's kind of been consistent now the last 2 times. Perfect, thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. McDowell. Brings us to item 16, which are our action items for the evening. Item 16A, the Grassroots Leadership Development Program is requesting an out-of-state trip to the annual USHLI Conference in Chicago, Illinois. The dates requested are February 15th through the 17th of this year. Letter of request is attached, and they did present to us at a prior board meeting. So I would entertain a motion to approve the out-of-state request as presented. A motion by Julie. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Greg Holman. Roll call.
Holman?
Yes.
Kozaczek?
Yes.
Kuntz?
Yes.
Lorenz?
Yes.
Mock? Peening?
Motion carries. Brings us to item 16B. Dr. McDowell will present the staffing plan and staffing requests for the 2023-2024 school year. Dr. McDowell.
So I did present last time, but again, I just want to go quickly through a couple of highlights before you cast your vote. So again, we continue to refine the process as we understand that adding any staff is it is necessary, but it's also a commitment in terms of training and onboarding and funding. And so just want you to be aware that we don't take it lightly. And again, this is the 4th time we've been through it now, that it's getting better and more, I would say, detailed each time. Again, we had 25 3/4 requests made, which totaled $1.2 million. We don't have $1.2 million to spend on staff, so we go through the process then to prioritize what is that going to be. That magic number that we had to get to was out of the general fund, we know that we can afford $385,000 in additional staff going forward. So, to get from 1.2 to 385 is quite the process. So what did it boil down to? At the elementary, it's 1.0 FTE for an early intervention teacher. That comes out of IDEA funds or special education funds, not general dollars. First grade, general fund. High school media specialist. The first 2 on the high school, again, media specialist and financial literacy. A media specialist is required by Rule 10 once your enrollment hits 700. We're anticipating hitting 700 next year, so we're just trying to get ahead of that. And then financial literacy is a graduation requirement passed by the Nebraska State Legislature 2 years ago. So we have to get there. And then an EL para. That EL para would come out of Title III, which are federal grant dollars. Miscellaneous. 1.0 contingency. So Contingency, I like to look at that at a couple different ways. I view it more as emergency funding. So if something were to happen and we had to have a staff member, could not function without them, that we have built that in. Now, that might not just be a teacher. In the numbers, I budget what the average cost of a teacher is there, so that's $72,000 for us. But that could end up being used for a paraeducator, or if we have, additional kids move in that need one-on-one paras that are required, we have those funds there. We've budgeted for them a little bit. In 1.0, sorry, that should say CNA, which will be paid out of ESSER $2 and $3, and then eventually Medicaid reimbursement, so not an impact on the general fund. We are going to set aside money for 2 special education paraeducators that come out of the general fund. Again, we have paraeducation positions open all the time, and so we're putting them there. They're incredibly difficult to hire right now. We continue to look at what can we do differently. I can tell you in complete confidence that for us, and the way we compensate paraeducators is the highest in the area. I have superintendents tell me that all the time, that they can't compete with what we're trying to pay paras. So I feel good about that, but we still have openings all the time. So that's why they're not assigned to a specific position yet. And then the last thing, not to exceed, I actually have that number down to like $45,000 additional funding for those extra standard positions, which are some additional coaches, and then altogether it's 15 extra standard positions, ranging from curriculum positions to team leader positions to academy leader positions at the high school. So with all of that, remember the goal was 385, we're at 398 out of the general fund if we were to use any contingency dollars. If we don't, then we're well below that. So total requests are 540,000. Again, but that's a combination of general fund, IDEA, Title III, and ESSER/Medicaid reimbursements. So with that, I'll gladly answer any questions about the 2023-2024 staffing plan. All right.
As you go through this, are you solely focusing on the upcoming year, or do you also try to look down the road a little?
We try to forecast out as far as we can, for sure. And part of the dollars too is, we know that the high school is also, because of the legislature, is going to need a computer science teacher next year as well. And so, we have to balance, when do we add that? Do we try to get that out of this fund? Do we try to, or our general fund dollars for next year or the following year? So we certainly take all of that into account. We try to do enrollment projections as far out as we can accurately. I'll tell you, it's more difficult when you're serving 4 counties. I can get live cohort survival ratios from hospitals with live births and all of that. I can go way down in the weeds with that. It's really difficult with 4 counties. So we do our best there. So long-winded answer to your question, yeah, we are trying to look out, not just immediately for next year, but what it's going to look like 3 and 5 years down the road.
And in terms of we hear special education coming up more and more over the last couple of years, it seems. Have we noticed any sort of a trend in terms of our numbers in that area?
Yeah, and Katie can throw something at me if I'm wrong. Yes, they continue to increase. We know, when we look at adding that early childhood special education position, that's all due to caseload and increased numbers. When we look at special education paras, we're adding those 2 there. If we can get them hired, we know that it seems to be that our students, what I would say are severe and profound, those numbers continue to climb. And so that is all driven by, special education is all driven by enrollment. And special education funding is also unique in that sometimes there's reimbursements, and that's one thing we watch very closely. If you look at it hasn't been public yet, but as the legislature continues to drop bills this week, special education funding is on the table. We watch that because special education funding is a benefit to every school district, right? So if they can increase the percentage at which we're reimbursed, that impacts every school district across the state in a positive way as long as that number goes up. And I believe that reimbursement rate this year was right at 44%. And so, I wish it was 100, but if we could get to 75 or 80, that would be ideal.
Any other questions, board? Thank you, Dr. McDowell. With that, board, I would entertain a motion to approve the staffing plan as proposed.
I move to approve the staffing plan.
Motion by Greg Holman, is there a second? Second by Julie. Any further discussion, questions, board?
No discussion, but I want to applaud the fact that you're adding the extra standard things into the plan. I think that's we needed that to acknowledge people that are in the district in roles other than administration, so.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, roll call.
Holman,
Yes.
Kozaczek,
Yes.
Kuntz,
Yes.
Lorenz,
Yes.
Mock, Peening.
Staffing plan is approved. Any board members have a need for executive session tonight? Hearing none, we will move on to item 18. Is there any old business to be discussed?
No, sir.
With that, the next Board of Education meeting will be on February
13th.
13th
Sorry.
at 6 PM right here. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Julie, is there a second? By Bill, roll call?
1 second. Holman,
Yes.
Kozaczek, Kuntz,
Yes.
Lorenz, Mock, Peening.
And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you all for coming. Have a good evening.